I don't have any weapons. Sorry, just I can't help myself. Okay, I have a very specific type of brain rot. It feels like because I was just floating around in my head many a times during that movie, much to my dismay. I don't even like that weird lol cow shit, obviously, because I'm not 14. But one thing I did like was the movie Weapons. All right, I saw that last night. Good ass movie. Look, I can do Lex Luthor thing. Ugly dog in a coop. So yeah, Weapons is Zach Crager's sophomore effort as a director, and it's one of the many movies coming out this year that I've been waiting for since like 2023 when they very first got announced that they were going into production. Those movies were Final Destination, Superman, at the time was Superman Legacy even, and I think maybe 28 years later, if I'm still, I cannot remember for the life of me for some reason if I knew that movie was coming out for a while or if I only found out when the trailer dropped. I think there might have been speculation that they would be doing something soon, but I don't think I assumed that it would have been as soon as 2025. They kept all of that shit pretty under wraps for the most part, which is surprising, but also pretty impressive that they managed to keep a movie that big such a fucking secret for so long. But Weapons was another movie that I've been excited for quite some time now. I've been excited for it since I saw Barbarian 3 years ago. I absolutely fell in love immediately. I thought that was one of my favorite horror movies of 2022, and it immediately made clear that Zach Crager is a director I should pay attention to. Zach Crager obviously being one of the former members of the Whitest Kids You Know from back in the day, now a horror movie director. And no, I don't think he sold his soul to get there. I can't believe that there's such a weird people on the internet who like just fucking say the craziest, most out of pocket shit about these movies and like people who make them and stuff like that. Like I like the Whitest Kids You Know too. I think a lot of the skits I have seen over the years have been pretty funny, but wow, do they have a weird fan base. But I've been waiting for Weapons for like 2.5, maybe almost 3 years now, ever since. Well, I was excited to see what Zach Crager would do next as soon as Barbarian was over, and I can't remember, but at some point this did go on to Letterboxd with just like the title Weapons and plot to be announced, you know? And I was very curious to see what this is. For a second there, after I found out he was doing Resident Evil, I got very excited because I was like, oh, is Weapons like a cover-up kind of name so people wouldn't know that he was working on the next Resident Evil movie? But it wasn't. He's doing Weapons this year, and next year he's doing a Resident Evil movie, so back to back, that's pretty cool. And so yeah, this is his own thing entirely. And as soon as the trailers first dropped, I already knew I was interested, but I knew that this is going to be something I really fucked with, maybe even as much as I did Barbarian. I've been seeing that ad this like entire year. It chases me to every movie I go to. The marketing has been insane for this movie. I went to see Superman for a second time because Avery didn't get a chance to see it the first time, so I went with her to see it again almost a month after it's been out, and the theater was still packed and we had to sit in the very front row, which was not fucking fun. I don't think that this theater should have a front row right there. I don't think it should exist, to be honest. Because it was like literally right under the screen and we just had to kind of look up at this long extended Superman close-ups that were happening on the screen. But she liked that movie, but the reason I bring that movie up was because even in that packed theater full of like toddlers who were with their parents and other kids and stuff, they still showed the Weapons trailer. And the Weapons trailer gets pretty fucking intense. There's like people stabbing themselves with forks. There's that lady slamming her head through the fucking bathroom door, her eyes bulging out. There's the other shot of the guy's eyes bulging out. Like, I was like, why are they showing this right before Superman? The fuck? But I did love that first trailer that came out. I saw some people getting upset because apparently there was like a hand-drawn, animated, like fucking kids retelling of the events as an ad as well. It wasn't even something that happens in the movie, mind you. But a lot of people got mad at that because it turns out that they used AI for that. So a lot of people just straight up said they're not going to see this movie anymore, and they were like calling it AI movie and shit on TikTok or whatever. But that's literally just the marketing. This specific shot that's like AI generated thing isn't even in the fucking movie at all. And I don't really think that Zach Krager and the rest of the crew of this movie should be blamed for Warner Bros. Shitty marketing tactics. Like, I've seen that kind of happen before. Marketing is very, very separate from the actual production of the movie. Like, that's why you'll hear sometimes directors and actors even talking about how they were kind of let down by trailer final products, and like they feel like the trailer did their movie a disservice by making it seem like it was something it wasn't. And that happens quite a bit because marketing is a tricky thing, and getting people interested in something without showing them too much of something or giving them the wrong idea about something can be kind of hard sometimes. But you don't need to use fucking AI for like a kid's drawing scene that's purposely meant to be shitty looking. Just like do it on your own, you know, just do some scribbles or whatever. I saw some people say like, oh, why did they just get a real kid to do this? You don't even need a real kid to do this. You can you can doodle by yourself as an adult if you want to, and just fucking put it in the movie. That's fine. Or the trailer, I guess, put it in the trailer. But yeah, I thought that was pretty lame of Warner Bros. And their marketing team to do that, but it wasn't going to deter me completely from seeing this movie because, hey, in my defense, fucking Civil War did the exact same shit. It had a bunch of fucking AI posters that were everywhere. People still ate that fucking movie up, okay? I didn't go see that one, but y'all did. Not you. I know you didn't see it or whatever, so it's not getting on the defensive, but he saw it. That guy did. Was it a good movie? I heard it was a pretty good movie. I still haven't seen it. I do like Alex Garland, though. But yeah, the time has finally come for Zach Krager's Weapons, which was probably the most anticipated horror movie of the year. It looks like it was reaching like long legs levels of people wanted to fucking see this movie. And the cool thing about this movie, I liked the long legs, but a lot of people didn't. A lot of people really didn't like that movie, and they still bring it up like a year later as like an example of like movies that they think are bad that got popular or something. Because they're like, oh, every time I saw ads for this movie and how it was supposed to be like the best of the year, people were like, yeah, they said the same thing about Long Legs last year. And it's like, yeah, dude, there's a new best horror movie every year. There's a best horror movie of every year. That's just how that works. If there's horror movies coming out every year, but whatever. And this isn't my favorite movie of the year, though. It definitely lived up to a lot of my expectations and kind of gave me exactly what I wanted it to in a lot of ways, but also surprised me in a fair amount of ways too, which I appreciated. It's still pretty easily my fourth favorite movie of the year. It's right now it's going like 28 years later in first place just for personal bias reasons mainly, but I do think that movie is genuinely amazing. Sinners is my second place, but I can recognize the fact that Sinners is definitely the better of the two movies when it comes to 28 years later and Sinners. Because like I said, it's just a very personal bias kind of thing. 28 Days Later is my favorite movie of all time, and 28 Years Later was my most anticipated movie ever to come out, probably. But I still see Sinners as like the most well-made and interesting movie to come out this year. They're pretty much on the same level for that. For me, you know, like I love both of them. I saw Sinners a few different times as well, or I watched it a few different times. I actually missed Sinners in theaters, regrettably. And then in third place, we got Superman, which was just also an amazing movie in my opinion. A very fun time, but not quite as perfect or like fucking groundbreaking to me as these other two, but it's up there. It is a close third. And then fourth place is where Weapons would lie, because I also think this movie is amazing. And fifth place is Mickey 17. You guys should watch that movie. That's a good movie. So I went to see this movie with Avery and our friend Riley, and who you might have seen on Auburn Rats, actually. He's been on Auburn Rats before if you've seen that channel. But we went to see it. We went to see it at the 4 o'clock showing because it was a Sunday. And people got to be fucking up on a Monday. You know how it is. Our seats were actually pretty good in this theater, and for the most part, it was a pretty pleasant theater experience. There wasn't really any major talking going on. There was, of course, the like clutter in the preview, but that shit silenced as soon as the movie started. I think this is one of those movies where just like everybody's interested. You know what I mean? Everyone who wants to go see this movie wants to see this movie and doesn't want any distractions, which I really appreciated because I was in the same boat. There was one old guy though, but he like a dad, I think, some 50-year-old looking dude, but he was interesting, but nothing to be upset about. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't doing anything bad. He wasn't being annoying. He would just kind of laugh at like really strange parts where nothing particularly funny was happening, or sometimes something really gory and fucked up would happen and he would kind of laugh. I think almost like it sounded almost like a shock laugh where he was just like taken aback by the fact that he just saw someone's head get caved in. So I kind of get that. But my favorite thing he did the whole movie was there's that scene where Josh Brolin leaves work and he puts those 2 red paint cans in the back of his truck and he follows the teacher Justine to her home. And this movie is shown in different perspectives. If you haven't seen this movie yet and you're watching this review, by the way, what the fuck are you doing? Get out of here. But like I'm going to talk to you like you've seen the movie as well, because I hope you have, because it's very good. You should go see it. But you know how he got the red paint and he put it in his truck and then he followed Justine home and he painted witch on the side of her car or whatever, which was like a callback to earlier in the movie when we saw that fucking sign appear on her car or whatever. But the funny thing about that was as soon as he got there and took the red paint out of his car, this dude loud as fuck went, that's that red paint. And me and Avery were chuckling a little bit about that because it was just very funny how he felt it. He'd be like, that's that red paint right there. It's like watching Superman, and like whenever Superman shows back up on screen, like you tap the shoulder person next to you and you just go like, that's Superman. You know that's Superman? I'm pretty sure that's Superman. It reminds me of that Drew Gooden review I saw on Letterboxd of the movie The Monkey. I didn't know he had a Letterboxd account until this year, but I'm glad he does because his reviews are very funny. His About the Monkey was something along the lines of him being like, every time the monkey was on screen, I would turn and whisper to Amanda, that's the monkey, just so she would always know that that's the monkey. But yeah, nothing too distracting in this theater. It was just a damn good time of people jumping on occasion and also laughing at the surprising amount of dark comedy in this movie that works really well. This I'm always not opposed. I'm never opposed to a little bit of comedy in my horror movies, even if they're not like a horror comedy. Like the It movies are not technically horror comedies, but they have a lot of funny moments in them that make the characters feel more human. It actually aids the movie in a way and kind of acts as like the calm down in between the intense moments. It's like, oh yeah, something crazy just happened, but here's something somewhat funny. And I feel like that's a very hard line to strike when you're writing a horror movie. You don't want to fall too much on the comedy because it can become to like a point of parody almost. Zach Cregger's in that genius boat of people who used to do comedy writing and comedy acting who make the switch to writing and directing movies, horror movies to be specific, like Jordan Peele, who allegedly fired some of his managers at Monkey Paw Productions because they didn't get this movie in time. He was pissed, and rightfully so. I would also want this movie under my company, you know. Zach Cregger knows how to be funny. It is in his blood, so I think he's still able to tell a scary story and slip in things that he knows are going to be funny for him and the audience. That's not going to distract from the overall narrative or the dark themes of this movie. It's just going to be like a good joke, a good fun joke to lighten the mood a little bit. And there's many a dark comedy moments throughout this movie that most of them landed for me. There was even ones that weren't really dark comedy that were just kind of just funny, like the way they would cut it or the things the character would say. Very funny movie that in that way that made it feel more real, like this is a real situation that happened, because all the characters feel so real. This is easily that's one of this movie's biggest strengths over Barbarian. I thought the characters in Barbarian were pretty good, but they were rather surface level. Like they all kind of had their own archetype that they represented, you know what I mean? But here they're all very fleshed out and unique people with their own problems and situations, and you kind of see the movie through all these different perspectives, which I really wasn't expecting. Which another thing I have to praise this movie for is how it did beat my expectations so much. It pretty much beats them over the head with a shovel, and it works surprisingly well all the time. Because I kind of feel that I didn't really know what to expect from all the trailers, but a lot of the things that happened in this movie I don't think I could have ever expected, even if I tried. Just the way it tells the story is so satisfying, and seeing all these different things from different perspectives is great. My friend Riley pointed out that it almost seemed like dialogue was almost a little bit different between these people. Like, not that that was like an inconsistency or something, but he thinks that it's one of those things of like every character having their own perspective. Like when the cop knocks out, I forget his name, but the drug addicted tweaker guy, when he knocks him out after he gets poked by the thing, he's all, and from his perspective, he's all apologetic and like, let's just not talk about this because I don't want to lose my job for committing police brutality against you. But then when you see the drug addicted guy's perspective a little bit later in the movie, it is not nearly as apologetic in its tone, and it's almost more threatening. It was kind of threatening the first time too, but it's even more threatening now. And I think that's kind of interesting that the characters all kind of have a different account for what happened in this time period or whatever, like a slightly different perspective on things, because that's just kind of how human nature is. It's almost like they would be retelling the story to us, and this is how they would tell it. Like if the cop was telling us the story about how he punched that guy in the fucking face, he would be like, oh, I was super apologetic afterwards, I felt terrible. But the other guy would probably be like, yeah, no, he threatened me. He threatened me to keep my mouth shut after he punched me in the face. My friend Riley also was the first in our little trio that was hanging out to point out that this movie had some pretty heavy-handed but like interestingly done and pretty cool messaging about like school shootings and the trauma that comes with that. And I'm surprised I didn't pick up on that a little bit more when I was first watching it, but like when I first saw that giant gun in the sky, I kind of got it, you know. And I feel like there's also themes of child neglect in a certain sense, like how Alex is just this normal kid until suddenly his life falls apart and his parents can't take care of him anymore, and he has to live with this crazy witch lady who makes him do evil shit and like makes him steal all these things from his classmates so that they become zombies essentially. And I could be wrong, of course, I'm not an expert, but to me that really read is like a pretty clear message for childhood neglect and what that could lead to. You could also almost say that like it's a metaphor for how childhood neglect and all these different things can lead to kids doing violent things like that. Like maybe Alex is meant to represent the shooter of sorts because he's the one who allowed the weapon to fucking attack these kids pretty much. He aided it because he thought it would make his life better and go back to normal. And he's definitely not to blame completely though. He's not like a real school shooter because he didn't actually do anything super wrong. Well, he did, but he didn't know what he was doing. He was a kid and he was being manipulated, which was pretty tough, not fun. And this movie focuses pretty heavy on the grief process too that comes with something like a tragedy of that scale happening, and the second guessing of yourself and the constant reliving of that one moment, the last time you saw them leave the house kind of thing, you know, like Josh Brolin's character just sits there and like repeatedly watches footage of his son running away into the nighttime, and he just doesn't even, like, just fucking sits there and he tries to do his own investigating because he doesn't think the police are doing enough. Which, to be fair, they're probably not. Like, there was even a point where you can hear in the police station that they're just kind of, like, making fun of this guy. They're, like, complaining about him. Like, I get that it's a lot, that he's being pretty fucking intense, and he's doing too much, and he's, like, being kind of threatening towards this Justine lady. But also, he's a dad. He's a dad who was just extremely worried about his missing child, and he felt like nobody was trying to help him. So the way that these cops were just kind of talking down about the guy felt pretty on nose for how they would probably act about that shit. Not all cops, of course, just some of them. Some of them just would be like, oh, we'll find them eventually. Get off my back about it, God. Speaking of Josh Brolin's investigations, when Justin Long showed up in this movie, when he went to their house and talked to them, I got so excited. I like gasped in the theater. People probably heard me. Avery looked at me with confusion because I think she just kind of forgot that this dude was even a barbarian, so she doesn't really remember him. I was like, oh, it's fucking Justin Long. This was like it felt like seeing Spider-Man and come back in Spider-Man No Way Home again. I love Justin Long though, seriously. I think it might be gone now maybe, but at one point in time, like 2 years ago, I did have an entire second channel video that was like only a minute or two long, called like, well, second channel being this channel now, because this channel got repurposed into Brandawg's broadcast, but I used to just post random shit on it, and I might kind of go back to doing that, to like, because it is still the second channel, you know, I'll sparse out some regular content amongst the weekly podcast episodes, you know, but that's besides the point. But I made a whole video like 2 years ago on this channel called Justin Long Needs to Be in More Horror Movies, where I just talked about the few that he's in, that I've seen like all of them. I love him in Jeepers Creepers, I love him in Tusk, and I love him in Drive Me to Hell, and I even kind of love him in Barbarian, even though he plays a major piece of shit in that movie. I just love Justin Long as an actor, and I think he is so well suited for the horror genre. He just fits in so perfectly to me. I kind of wish that they had done cameos for the other two primary characters in Barbarian, but I totally get why you wouldn't. That might feel like too much, and it also probably would be quite expensive to get Bill Skarsgård back just to be like a random parent at the conference meeting or something who like stands up and goes like, fuck you lady, like that kind of cameo, so it's not distracting, you know what I mean? But like I said earlier, I do like all the characters we do get to meet in this movie, and I like the way the actors portrayed them a lot. I feel like doing the different perspectives was a nice way to kind of give us everybody's viewpoint on this situation and kind of get attached to them all as characters separately. When I first saw the trailers, I kind of assumed that most of this movie would follow Justine, but most of it doesn't. She's definitely the main character, I'd say, of like all of them, but she takes a pretty heavy back seat for most of the middle of this movie, and then just kind of comes back at the end with Josh Brolin, who also kind of takes a little bit of a back seat. Not to say that they're like forgotten about, obviously. They're still very important. It's just that the movie takes its time to like show you a lot of different perspectives, like ones that you weren't even thinking you would get, like the principal guy. You get to see like a whole fucking perspective from him, and it's not as long or as like and as intense as the other ones. Well, it's one of the more intense ones, don't get me wrong. But it sticks with you, you know what I mean? That's what I was trying to get to. It sticks with you, and I love stories that can tell you different perspectives like this and kind of jump around in time and events that happen in like this week or whatever. I'm not exactly sure how much time went by. I think, well, I mean, the thing happens where the kids all disappear, and then I think a month goes by is what they say. And when all this shit starts to really unfold, as it's only been like a month. But the whole movie, you do wonder like what the fuck, where the kids went, and like what the fuck caused it. And you get like small, you don't get answers, but you get small things, you know. There's this house that the kid Alex lives in, and there's clearly something wrong with it, because he gets followed home by Justine, and all the windows are covered up with newspaper and whatnot, and he won't speak to her on the street. He actually gets very angry when she tries to talk to him. And yeah, like, so a lot of people are curious about this house. One random dude just kind of the tweaker dude just breaks into it because he notices that like all the newspapers haven't been picked up, which is it's nice small detail, but like it's also makes sense that Alex wouldn't notice to cover those kind of tracks, you know. Like he's paying close enough attention to everything else. He's not telling anybody what's going on at home, and he's like assisting this witch lady. I'll get more into that in a second. He's assisting her and covering shit up, but he didn't think about like a small detail, like the fact that nobody's picking up the newspaper off the driveway every morning. And so the fucking drug dealer guy, forget his name again, I'm sorry. He was funny though. I liked him. He was funny. He breaks into their home, sees the parents just sitting there all weird and continues stealing shit, but then he finds all the kids just standing in the basement, which was a pretty interesting reveal. Pretty cool, I thought. Pretty spooky scene as well. Dude barely makes it out of that house, only to end up right back in it when he tries to go to the police station and like report the missing kids or whatever. And the cop who threatened him finds him, and then they kind of have to go together, and then bad shit ensues from there. So yeah, you spend the whole movie kind of wondering what all this is building to and what could be causing this. And it turns out that it's this very strange. I'm not even the thing that's interesting about this character is I'm still not entirely sure what the fuck they are, if they're human or not, if they're like a witch or if they're like a demon. I don't know, and I'm kind of okay with not knowing. I think that makes it a little bit more interesting. But there's this, let's just call her this lady, I forget her name, but she claims to be Alex's aunt or something, or like the mom's aunt, I think. No, it's the mom's aunt of Alex's mom, and she needs to come there and live with them because she doesn't feel so good. So she turns the parents into these weird freakish monsters like immediately, these like zombie versions of themselves, the weapons or whatever, you know. And she's trying to like feed off of them, it seems like, to make herself not die or make herself not sick. I'm not entirely sure yet again, but I think that it's interesting that they don't really tell us. So she makes Alex steal a bunch of shit, something from every kid in his class, which he was way smarter than I would have been at that age, because I would have been tediously trying to like steal small knickknacks off their backpack or something, like Alex is first kind of considering. But then he does something very smart, and he takes all of their name tags off of like the cubby things, because they're all like custom painted by the kids, so that kind of is like, you know, that's a piece of them or whatever. And I thought that was a pretty smart move on his part, to be honest. Made his job, part of that job, a lot more convenient. Poor kid though, didn't need to be doing all that. He was doing it for nothing. But yeah, this witch, like, she is kind of a witch, I think, and I feel like the movie kind of builds to that with like oh, people were writing witch on Justine's car, like she's a witch, but she's not the witch, it's a different witch. And I'm cool, I can fuck with witchcraft movies, especially because this is quite easily my favorite one I've seen, if this is a witchcraft movie, which I would say it is. The way it works or whatever, you probably saw the movie, I don't know why I'm explaining it, but she cuts like a piece of people's hair off. She kind of needs a piece of them, any piece, but I think the hair is just like convenient for her or something. And she wraps around this weird thorn thing that she has, and she cuts her fucking hand with it, and then she like puts it into a water bowl or something, and it fucking, boom, it like instantly turns this person into this mindless weapon zombie thing. And it's a pretty neat little premise, I think. And it's interesting that she can hold so much power in such a small thing. And the finale of this movie is so interesting and so chaotic, and immediately boosted the movie up for me, because I already liked it, but I liked it a lot more after the finale. So Julia Gardner and Josh Brolin go to that house, and shit just goes fucking nuts. Obviously, they had that big fight scene where Josh Brolin can't knock out that fucking zombified tweaker dude or whatever. He just keeps getting back up, like he'll knock him out with a fucking blow to the face, and then 2 seconds later the guy's like, ah! That was a very fun scene, another moment of dark comedy type shit that landed very well for me. Josh Brolin is just straight up tossing this guy across the room. There's like 2 times where he picks him up and he throws this guy like a whole 4 or 5 feet over like a table or something, and the guy just gets back up. Oh god. So yeah, they almost get fucking murdered in there, but luckily the kid Alex is upstairs getting attacked by his fucking parents already, and he finds her thorn thing in her room, and he does, after watching her so much, he kind of gets the gist of how it works, so he breaks it in half. This poor little kid was struggling to break this thing too without cutting his fingers to shit probably, but he broke it in half, and immediately the fucking just drop of tone from that witch lady, this like confident evil, just went to like pure fucking shit your pants fear as this lady flees out of the house and down the street and through the neighborhood and through other people's houses as this fucking herd of children chase her and like run through people's homes and demolish them like fucking raging bulls. It's amazing. It is so funny, and it is so satisfying to watch after like all of that shit. I love when horror movies can just end in like the most fucking intense way like that, you know, where I love it when it ends bad for the piece of shit bad guy. That's my favorite kind of horror movie ending, and it ends horribly for this lady. These kids, they tackle her and they quite literally tear her to pieces. Like, I've heard getting torn to pieces as like a thing in movies my whole fucking life, you know, but I don't think I've seen somebody get physically torn apart by humans to this extent before. Maybe in like some older zombie movies or something, but like, god damn, they rip this lady's fucking head in half at the jaw. They rip her arms off, they rip her guts out, her legs too. This lady's just a pile of like mush on the fucking grass by the time all these children are finished, and it was extremely satisfying. The actual ending itself is a bit more bittersweet. Obviously, it doesn't have like a super happy immediate ending. Like, these parents got their kids back, but they're pretty much in this like vegetative state now where they don't even fucking talk to anybody. They're just kind of there, and it's like that sucks, but at least they got their kids back, you know? Which I also think works into the theme of grief in this movie, because it's almost like the children who do survive like a major catastrophe like a school shooting. It's kind of hard to continue living with that trauma, for not just for the kid obviously, but for the family as a whole. And it's a very like kind of bittersweet, sad thing where you're like, hey, at least you got out, but you know, now you have to live with the fucking pain and the survivor's guilt of having gotten out, which is fucking also terrible. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie. I thought it was great, and it's one of my favorites I've seen this year. Definitely lived up to my expectations. Of course, you have that loud minority of people who are going to talk about how this movie was such a disappointment and it wasn't as cool as they thought it'd be, because they had this exact expectation for what would happen in a movie and it didn't live up to their exact expectation. That the director should have just known that, of course, and made the movie specifically for this person. That's just how I feel when I read a lot of opinions on like horror movies, like modern movies in general, but especially horror movies these days. Is whenever I see a bunch of these people being like, this movie fucking sucked, I want to see it more, because I just don't trust the general like movie going audience with horror movies anymore. They get mad as fuck about every single one. They hate shit like Hereditary and Weapons and The Lighthouse or The Witch, all these kind of great, really good horror movies that like really stick with you. They hate shit like that, but they eat up the shit. They eat up shit like The Nun 2, and then they have the fucking gulf. They have the fucking gulf to say horror movies aren't good anymore. You like The Nun 2. It's the same thing that I felt when like 28 Years Later came out, and I saw that like people were like, oh, it's getting an audience score of 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. You think I give a fuck about the audience score? Like, I've had a lot of people over the years tell me that they trust that one more. I don't trust that shit at all. Literally anybody can leave a review on there and it can affect the score of a movie. Like, so I could literally make an account on Rotten Tomatoes. All you have to do, give a 1-star review to Weapons and just say, poop in butthole, I pooped in my diaper while watching this movie, and it would still affect the score of the movie. So I don't trust the fucking audience score. If anything, I do trust the critic score a lot more, because it does tend to like line up a lot more with how I actually feel. And when it comes to stuff like horror movies, critics can be harder on them. So I feel like looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score kind of gives you the general gist of like where this movie is going to lie, how it's going to be. Like, if I see a horror movie get like a 70% or higher on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm like, this is going to be a fun movie. I might actually really like this movie, because that just means that it's going to be a good movie, and critics don't like to admit that they think horror movies can be good movies sometimes. And when I see one like this, like Weapons, get like a 97%, I know that I'm in for a good time, even if I'm not gonna think it's like as good as like the Rotten Tomatoes score is or something. and I do think it's definitely up there for sure. It I know for sure that I'm in for something that I'm gonna like. You know what I mean? Like I did not give a shit about the audience score of 28 Years Later. If anything, when I saw that like the movie started at it with a 95% and then all it went down to was like 88, I was like, this is gonna be a good movie, and it was. But yeah, I loved Weapons a lot. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's up there for me. All right, it's up there. It's one of my favorites of the year, like I said, and it's in that like 9 out of 10 category with Mickey 17 and Final Destination Bloodlines, because I like that movie a lot. Do I like this or Barbarian more? Only time will tell, I guess. I think I'm in need of a Barbarian rewatch soon, so I can kind of decide between the two Zach Cregger movies, which is my favorite. I'm still leaning a little bit towards Barbarian right now, just because like the impact that had on me at the time that it came out is going to be kind of hard to replicate. I loved that horror movie so much that it was kind of like, it was like the horror movie that that and the Nope in the same year were the horror movies that cemented to me that writing and directing horror movies is something that I really, really want to do. I wanted to be a movie director and writer since I was like 10, but I've been all over the place with like what I would do and what I want to do. But like Barbarian was the thing that came out and made me realize that like I'm set on horror for sure at some point. If I get a chance to make a movie someday, it will most definitely be in the vein of horror. So yeah, 9 out of 10. I love this a lot. Great movie. Go see it if you haven't. But if you're watching this far under review and you haven't seen this movie, what the fuck? You just ruined the whole movie for yourself. You just ruined the whole thing for yourself. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about it down below. I was gonna do a little quick one on Clown in a Cornfield before I wrap this up, but I think I'll save that for another time. I think I'll do like near the end of the year. I'll probably do like a 2025 catch up kind of video or like podcast episode, where I just like talk about all the movies that I didn't get to see in theaters this year but I have watched and I want to express my opinions on or whatever. And I think I'll save Clown in a Cornfield for that. But Weapons is great, super dope movie, loved it a lot, and I cannot wait for Zach Cregger's Weapons. So thank you for joining me on another episode of Brandawg's broadcast. And I'll see you in the next one, which I'm pretty sure is about my Blu-ray collection, I think. I already edited it before this because I wanted to, I'm trying to edit a main channel video right now. So I wanted to kind of stockpile some Auburn Rats videos and also a couple podcast episodes so I wouldn't have to worry about editing all of those and I could just focus on my main channel video. But, I think it's my Blu-ray collection next time. So see you next time when I talk about my Blu-ray collection, I guess. So bye-bye.